People who've gotten their bosses fired. How? He grabbed the back of my neck and said, if you ever say I'm wrong in front of a customer again, I will beat your ass. I went to the GM and told him, and my supervisor was relieved of his duties about 5 minutes later. I got my own kind of justice with my supervisor too. GF, 18, starts cheating on me with supervisor, 31. I tell his boss, he gets fired. He tells GF to F off for ruining his life. GF and I break up. I tell supervisor's wife he was cheating on her, and now they're divorced. My supervisor was a 31-year-old who had just gotten married a year ago. He was known for hitting on any young girl at work he could. I was dating a girl at work who was 18. My GF and supervisor became really good friends. I mean really good friends. He sold her his Mercedes at a very steep friend discount. She got promotion after promotion that she frankly didn't deserve or have the experience or availability for. She very rarely had to even perform the responsibilities of these promotions. It was obvious to everyone what was going on. There was something between my GF and our supervisor, though to this day she still insists there wasn't. I could tell our supervisor was straight up trying to win her over. They would go on dates, not dates in her eyes, and when he found out her and I were dating, he told her he would fire me. She was seeing him a lot more than she was seeing me. I tried to express my concerns to her about all this, like maybe this isn't what it looks like, and I just need to hear her side. She got defensive and huffy and said he's just a really good friend. At that point there was nothing I could do, because if I told her to stop seeing him, he'd know I was the cause and fire me. One night I was closing the store while they were together at midnight doing who knows what. She decided to stop by and hang with me for the rest of the night. Our supervisor dropped her off with the intention that a non-working employee would be let into the store after close, a security violation. That's where I got him. I went to the owners and exposed the supervisor. I told them about how he is fraternizing with an employee, which is against policy for a supervisor, and I told them about how he brought her to the store one night with the intention of violating security policy. The owners asked some other employees about the situation and they all agreed you could tell, just by looking at them, that something wrong was going on. Supervisor was fired. GF became ex-GF. Supervisor wanted nothing to do with her anymore, since he got fired because of her. I googled the supervisor's name and found out where he lived. I had someone he wouldn't recognize in case he answered the door, knock on his door, and tell his wife exactly what he had been up to, about how he had been trying to get with an 18-year-old girl. They are now divorced. That's what you get for trying to steal my girlfriend and ruining our relationship. Both of them can burn in hell. My ex-GF still doesn't think she did anything wrong. I took a cell phone video of her taking money from the safe and putting it in her wallet. I knew she was doing it, and I also knew that the moment it came out that money was missing, she'd blame it on me. She was so stupid that she didn't realize she should stop doing that while I was standing 10 feet away with my phone out and facing her. It was my supervisor. It got to the point that I had decided to quit. I had my resignation letter in my purse, but decided to let his boss know why I was quitting. Supervisor would talk about all the people on our team constantly, but only behind their backs. I got so sick of telling him to cut it out. My husband and I happened to work at the same place, different departments, and my supervisor would make sexual comments about threesomes with him, what hotel we picked for our afternoon delight, shit like that. It was so bloody uncomfortable. Apart from this, he spent most of his supervising time outside smoking. Problem was, supervisor was one of the guys, and I was the only girl. Turns out his boss was disgusted, told his boss, who lost his mind. They started an investigation which took 3 days. They interviewed staff. They corroborated what I said. They checked the security cameras, saw he was spending most of his workday outside smoking, and was fired. When he was told, he guessed wasn't hard that I was the person who complained and tried to get to me to apologize, that I took it the wrong way. The best feeling was my co-workers surrounding me as he was wailed out. That was a lovely ending to it all. My boss hired me at a surprisingly good salary and got me 2 raises in the first 5 years. When the work slowed down to our department, he defended all his employees to management. They fired him the same day they fired me. Oh boy, my time to shine. I used to work for an industrial supply company and my boss was undiagnosed, but admittedly bipolar. He was extremely mean and would be very Jekyll and Hyde-like. He used to threaten us, would call our spouses, and yell at them about our performance, berate us in front of customers, the list goes on. He once told me that, if my 5-year plan wasn't helping get him promoted then I had no place in the company. He openly questioned me as a person, my relationship, and my personal morals. Since I didn't want to sell faulty equipment, I would have many panic attacks before work, and after 3 years I decided that enough was enough. From the very first occurrence I began documenting everything. When he smashed a candy machine, I took photos. Brought and kept his gun at work. I took photos, berated a coworker spouse. I called and got signed copies of the transcription. I basically documented everything so that no one could tell me this wasn't happening and had substantial proof of this hostile work environment. One day I called our district manager out to lunch. I put the several inch thick manila folder in front of him and informed him that either he fired and replaced our boss or everyone was walking out. Given the evidence and after speaking with the other employees, our boss, 10 years in the company, was fired. I have never been more satisfied and proud of myself in my life. HVAC tech brought a new person on as a scheduler. This person got a power trip almost instantly. I outperformed everyone in the company and this peon kept harping me about something. Like every time I called the office he'd say something. Last call of the day comes to me and I'm pissed. I've worked 10 hours, no breaks, just go, go, go. So he starts in again, while giving me a job that should have gone to someone else. I get pissed after getting the info and hang up on him. He starts texting me. I call his boss, one of my good friends, and lay it out. Him or me. Something has to change. Either I never have to talk to him, which is possible, or I'll bring in my truck. I get a text from the prick to be at shop early. I get there early so I can watch him clean out his desk. Found out later he had been fired from the last 4 jobs for basically the same thing. HVAC technicians can be your best friends if you treat them right. But we don't take sh for nothing. Phoned him to tell him I won't be at work for the rest of the week as my mum is terminally ill in hospital. The next day, about an hour after she passed away, he phoned and asked why I wasn't at work. I just hung up on him so I wouldn't say anything that would get me in trouble. The next day I sent the area manager a WhatsApp message explaining what he'd be done and attached a video of him breaking the freezer door while having a tantrum, which cost the store nearly £5,000 in lost stock and the repair costs, which he told the AM it broke on its own. He got fired that day and I got 2 weeks off with full pay. In college I worked in a takeout restaurant just off campus and we were all employed by the school. I was 17 to 18 years old back in 2007/2008 and my boss, the manager, was a 40-something creeper, hitting on me, touching me inappropriately, trying to massage my shoulders, tickling me, putting his hands on/around my waist despite me asking him to stop. Then he friended me on Facebook. I declined and suddenly my work schedule was changed. I was on shift during hours when I had class, and when I explained that problem, I got taken off the schedule altogether. I told the assistant manager what was going on, which I was explicitly told by the manager not to talk to the assistant, and he reported what was going on to upper management. Boom. Manager was fired. I worried for a while if he was going to come after me for that. About 13 to 14 years ago, I was working as a web designer for a .com. In our immediate group were a creative director, a creative manager, and 2 of us who were designers, and we were all part of the marketing department. The creative director was a joke, brought in by the previous VP of marketing who he was friends with. He hardly did any work himself and just played online poker waiting on us to send him things for approval. And he'd never stick around late when the rest of us needed to stay late to hit a deadline or deal with a crisis, etc. The creative manager, who'd been in charge for a couple years before the creative director's hiring, still ran the day-to-day. So the creative manager gave his notice that he'd accepted a new job, and when I met with the current VP of marketing to discuss transition, I mentioned that the creative director would need to step up and pull his weight. I guess a similar message was expressed by a number of people, and less than a week after the creative manager's last day the creative director was fired. This kind of sucked because we went down from 4 to 2 people in our group. I was appointed acting creative manager, and we eventually did hire one more designer. I left the company a couple months later too, after the latest VP of marketing was let go, and there was going to be a 10th different person overseeing marketing in my 5 years there. And the creative director? He'd reached out at some point, looking for files for his portfolio, I think, and it happened to be in the 2-week window, where I'd accepted my next job, but hadn't yet started, so I mentioned my new position. Well, he fires off a copy of his resume to the company president, and tried to poach my new job out from under me. On my first day at the new job, the president mentioned that somebody else from that same company also applied for the job and forwarded me the application email to see if I knew him. Saw that the date was after he and I had last communicated. Please like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.